Hold on. A new trade proposal has the Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring 40-goal scorer Tage Thompson from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Max Domi, Matias Maccelli, and Nick Robertson. And while this sounds incredible on paper, we need to seriously ask ourselves, is Toronto really willing to give up 3 roster players for 1 star? And more importantly, would Buffalo actually do this deal when Thompson is supposed to be a cornerstone of their rebuild? All right, folks, we need to talk about what might be the most ambitious trade proposal we've seen yet for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Heavy.com just published a blockbuster scenario that would bring Tage Thompson, the 6'7", 220-pound goal-scorer machine from the Buffalo Sabres, to Toronto in exchange for Max Domi, Matias Maccelli, and Nick Robertson. On the surface, this looks like exactly the kind of move that could transform Toronto's offense and address their desperate need to replace Mitch Marner's production. But as we dig deeper into the details, the logistics, and the realities of both team situations, this trade becomes far more complicated than it initially appears. Let's break down every angle of this proposal and figure out whether it's brilliant, insane, or somewhere in between. First, let's establish exactly what this trade proposal entails, because the details matter. Toronto Maple Leafs acquire Tage Thompson, $7.14 million cap hit. Buffalo Sabres acquire Max Domi, $3.75 million cap hit. Matias Maccelli, $3.43 million cap hit. Nick Robertson, $1.83 million cap hit. From a pure salary cap perspective, the math works. Toronto is sending out $9.01 million in cap hits and taking back $7.14 million, which actually gives them nearly $2 million in cap relief. That's significant for a team that's been operating with minimal flexibility all season. Buffalo, meanwhile, takes on slightly more salary but gets 3 roster players instead of 1, which could help their depth. Now let's talk about Tage Thompson as a player, because if you're to give up 3 roster players to acquire someone, you better be getting a legitimate star. And Thompson absolutely qualifies. He's 27 years old, right in his prime. He's 6'7" and 220 pounds, an absolute giant by NHL standards. He was originally drafted 26th overall by the St. Louis Blues back in 2016, but he really broke out after being traded to Buffalo in July 2018. Thompson's career trajectory is fascinating. He spent 3 seasons in Buffalo's system essentially developing and figuring out his game. Then in 2021 to 2022, everything clicked. He scored 38 goals and 68 points while averaging 17 minutes 53 seconds of ice time per game over 78 games. That was his breakout season, and it showed what he could do when given opportunity and responsibility. But that was just the beginning. The following season, 2022 to 2023, Thompson absolutely exploded. He scored 47 goals and added 47 assists for 94 total points. He averaged 18 minutes 35 seconds per game and established himself as one of the most dangerous offensive weapons in the entire league. That's elite, superstar-level production. The past 2 seasons have seen some regression. 29 goals in 2023 to 2024, then 44 goals last season. But that's still excellent production. Last year specifically, Thompson scored 44 goals and 72 points in 76 games. That's nearly a point-per-game pace from a player who brings size, skill, and a legitimate scoring touch. What makes Thompson so valuable is his unique combination of attributes. There simply aren't many 6'7" players in the NHL who can skate like he does, handle the puck with his skill level, and finish with his accuracy. He's a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses. How do you defend a guy that big who also has elite hands and a lethal shot? You can't really. You just try to limit his opportunities and hope for the best. For Toronto specifically, Thompson would be transformational. Imagine this potential lineup. Line 1, Matthew Knies, Auston Matthews, William Nylander. Line 2, winger, Tage Thompson, winger. Line 3, depth forwards. That gives you 2 legitimate scoring lines with elite talent. Thompson could center second line and be the primary offensive driver, taking pressure off Matthews and spreading out the scoring throughout the lineup. Or you could experiment with different combinations. Maybe put Thompson on Matthews' wing and create an absolutely terrifying top line. The flexibility would be incredible. Thompson also addresses specific needs that Toronto has. They need goal scoring to replace what they lost when Mitch Marner left. Thompson provides that in spades. He's a proven 40-plus goal scorer. They need size and physicality, especially under Craig Berube's coaching philosophy. Thompson at 6'7" brings that. They need players who can perform in big moments and playoff situations. Thompson has shown he can produce under pressure. The report notes that Thompson is everything the Maple Leafs want when analyzing how to replace Marner's offensive production. That's accurate. If you're making a wish list of attributes for your ideal acquisition, Thompson checks almost every box. Elite goal scoring, size, skill, relatively young, signed long-term, proven production. He's a complete package. But now we need to talk about what Toronto would be giving up, because this isn't a minor cost. Let's break down each piece. Max Domi is a 30-year-old winger who brings versatility, experience, and leadership. He's 5'10", 207 pounds, and was originally drafted 12th overall by Arizona back in 2013. He's the son of Tage Thompson, which gives him instant credibility and connection with Toronto fans. Last season, he scored 9 goals and 47 points in 80 games. This season, he's got 1 point in 4 games so far. Domi is a useful player. He can play center or wing. He's got playoff experience. He brings energy and compete level. But he's also 30 years old and on the decline. His production has dropped significantly from his peak years. He's not a core piece of Toronto's future. If you're trading him to acquire a star like Thompson, that's a sacrifice most teams would make. Matias Maccelli is a 25-year-old Finnish winger who Toronto acquired this past offseason. He's 6 feet, 179 pounds, and was originally drafted by Arizona in the 4th round of 2019. Last season with Arizona, he scored 12 goals and 41 points in 81 games. This season with Toronto, he's got 2 points in 4 games. Maccelli is interesting because he's younger and theoretically has more upside than Domi. He's got skill, he can create offense, and he's on a reasonable contract. But he's also not an established star or a player you absolutely can't trade. If giving up Maccelli is part of the cost to land Thompson, you probably do it. Nick Robertson we've discussed extensively. He's 24 years old. He's been in organizational limbo for years, and Toronto has already been shopping him according to multiple reports. He's got offensive ability and goal-scoring touch, but he's never established himself as a consistent NHL player. Including him in this package makes sense from Toronto's perspective. They're moving a player they were going to trade anyway. So when you add it all up, Toronto is giving up a declining 30-year-old veteran, a young but improving winger, and a player they're actively trying to trade. That's not a devastating cost for acquiring a legitimate superstar like Tage Thompson. From Toronto's perspective, this trade is a slam dunk. But here's where this proposal falls apart. Would Buffalo actually do this? Think about it from the Sabres' perspective. Tage Thompson is supposed to be a cornerstone of their rebuild. He's 27 years old. He's signed long-term. He's a proven goal scorer, and he's exactly the type of player you build around. Why would Buffalo trade him for 3 players who don't move a needle for their franchise? Max Domi is 30 years old. That doesn't fit Buffalo's timeline. They're not competing for a cup this year or next year. They're building for the future. What does a 30-year-old veteran do for them? Matias Maccelli is younger and could potentially fit their timeline, but he's not a game-changing piece. He's a complimentary player at best. Nick Robertson has potential, but hasn't proven anything at the NHL level. He's a project player who might develop into something useful or might not. So Buffalo will be trading their best goal scorer, a legitimate star in his prime, for 3 players who range from doesn't fit our timeline to unproven project. That doesn't make sense for them unless they've completely given up on Thompson, or there's some behind-the-scenes issue we don't know about. The report suggests this trade benefits both teams, but I'm struggling to see how it benefits Buffalo. Yes, they get 3 roster players instead of 1, which improves their depth. But depth doesn't win you championships. Stars do, and Thompson is a star. The only way this trade makes sense for Buffalo is if Thompson has privately requested a trade and they're accommodating him. There's a significant injury or health concern with Thompson that isn't public. Buffalo's front office has completely lost confidence in their ability to build a contender, and they're pivoting to a different strategy. There's a personality or locker room issue that makes keeping Thompson untenable. Absent one of those scenarios, I don't see Buffalo making this deal. They'd be better off holding Thompson, continuing their rebuild, and hoping he's part of their next competitive core. From Toronto's perspective, though, you absolutely make this offer. You call Buffalo, you propose this package, and you see if they bite. The worst they can say is no. And if they say yes, you've just landed a 40-goal scorer without giving up any of your top prospects or first-round picks. That's incredible value. Let's talk about the cap implications more deeply. Toronto currently has minimal cap space, so taking on Thompson's $7.14 million hit requires moving out salary. This proposal does that by sending out Domi, Maxelli, and Robertson, which creates nearly $2 million in cap relief. That's actually helpful for Toronto's flexibility moving forward. Thompson is signed through 2028 at that $7.14 million cap hit, which is excellent value for a player of his caliber. In today's market, 40 goal scorers command $8 to $10 million or more. Getting Thompson at just over $7 million is a bargain. The other factor to consider is how Thompson would fit into Craig Berube's system. Berube wants size. He wants physicality. He wants players who can win battles and play a two-way game. Thompson at 6'7" obviously brings the size. He's not known as a particularly physical player. He's more of a skill finesse guy, but his size alone creates problems for opponents. And while he's not a shutdown defensive forward, he's responsible enough in his own zone that Berube could work with him. The power play implications are also significant. Toronto's power play has been good, but could be even better with Thompson's shooting ability. Imagine a power play unit with Matthews, Nylander, Thompson, and others. That's multiple elite shooting threats that opposing penalty kills have to respect. You can't cheat toward one player because the others will burn you. Let's also consider the psychological and cultural impact. Landing a player like Tage Thompson would send a message to the rest of the league and to Toronto's fan base. This organization is serious about winning now. It would generate excitement. It would energize the locker room, and it would put pressure on other contenders to make their own moves. But we also need to be realistic about the challenges. Thompson has never played in a market like Toronto. Buffalo is a hockey city, but it's not the pressure cooker that Toronto is. Can he handle the scrutiny, the media attention, the expectations? We don't know. Some players thrive in that environment. Others wilt under pressure. There's also the injury risk. Thompson is generally durable, but he's had some injury issues in the past. What if he gets hurt shortly after being acquired? Then Toronto has given up 3 roster players for nothing. And there's the chemistry question. Just because a player is talented doesn't mean he'll automatically mesh with new line mates and a new system. We've seen countless examples of star players struggling after trades because the fit wasn't right. Thompson would need time to adjust, build chemistry, and learn Berube's system.